Hello everyone, my name's Arwen Summers and I'm a publisher at Hardy Grant Books. I'm here today to talk with Kate Ellis, who is the author of Sex Lies in Question Time, Why the Successes and Struggles of Women in Australia's Parliament Matter to Us All. Hello, Kate.
Hello, Arwen. Hi all, I'm Kate Ellis, the writer of Sex Lies in Question Time. I guess my background is I spent 15 years as a member of the Federal Parliament, and it was once I was released into normal society that I guess it really struck me how out of touch the culture for women in particular was within Canberra, and that some of my experiences actually aren't what happens in normal workplaces in modern Australia. So I was interested to speak to other women in the Federal Parliament and see whether that was something that was pretty common across the board, and set about interviewing 16 different women of different political backgrounds, and discovered that every single one of them had a story to tell about how they had been treated differently as a member of the Federal Parliament because they were a woman. And that formed the basis of this book.
Which is clearly an ongoing situation. It's been 120 years since women were able to vote and elected to Parliament, and we are still learning about, daily revelations coming out of Canberra about a culture that is not welcoming to women or people from diverse backgrounds. Why has parliamentary culture remained so totally impervious to change?
Well, I think that's the key question. Parliament is set up around traditions, and I think that there is a real conservatism to walk too far away from those traditions. But I also think really what happened was Parliament just got left behind. I think the rest of Australia used to have a similar culture and has modernised, and Parliament's just failed to do that. It's failed to do that when it comes to women, when it comes to appropriate treatment, when it comes to moving with the times like the rest of the world has done. The Parliament has stayed true to its traditions, which, let's be honest, the traditions it was set up by a group of middle-aged men. It's been dominated by a group of middle-aged men. The power still largely resides with a group of middle-aged men, and a little bit's changed, but we need to see a lot more change.
Yeah, well, arguably you could say that tradition is still being very much, enforced in real time right now. I mean, journalist Catherine Murphy has said that she feels both journos and pollies missed the significance of Julia Gillard's misogyny speech in Parliament, and she thinks this is a really similar moment. What do you think about that? Is the government missing a moment?
I think that what happened back with Julia Gillard's speech and what's happening now is that it's so common for people in politics in Parliament House to think of every issue through the lens as the political issue of the day. And with the misogyny speech, why it resonated was because women across the country, and indeed across the world, saw their own experience in what Julia was talking about. They saw someone powerful standing up and calling out what women deal with and have dealt with in workplaces for decades. And I think a very similar things happening. I think women across Australia see the rates of sexual assault in our community. Far too many have experienced it themselves, and see that there's no real course to justice far too often, and get angry about it. So I don't think it's about one case or two cases that happen to be high profile. It's about feeling that the government doesn't recognise and doesn't seem to care about what happened to them too. So yeah, I think that they're looking at it through a political lens instead of through a lens of shared human experience.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you. It's hard to think of it as anything other than kind of a political issue to be dealt with from where I'm sitting. In terms of actually, what happens in Parliament House, obviously things are different for MPs and staffers as well. And I know you touch on this in your book. What are your thoughts on how the Canberra culture affects staffers and MPs differently?
Well, I think that the issue is when it comes to power imbalances. That's always been the issue. And the reality is where the greatest imbalance of power is between female staffers and often junior staffers and senior men or senior ministers or senior MPs. So I think that where we're going to see this culture resonate in the most dangerous forms are where the power imbalance is greatest. I have no doubt that staff have seen the worst of this culture, and all of the evidence of late suggests that they're still seeing the worst of this culture. I think the fact that women who are powerful, who are elected representatives in our federal parliament, are also seeing different consequences of this culture just shows how strong it is. And I guess the fact that if female MPs and female ministers and female deputy leaders are seeing examples of the culture of disrespect towards women, even if it's in much more minor ways, then it shouldn't really be surprising that we're seeing it in much more dangerous ways when it comes to staff.
Yeah, absolutely. That it's even as a minister or as an MP, as you say, with more power, you are not immune to this. So we find ourselves now in a kind of chicken and egg situation, it seems, where, part of the reason that the culture is sort of stuck in the past is that it has been primarily dominated by middle-aged white men. But then because it's stuck in the past, it's an unwelcoming culture to women, and they don't really stick around, or they don't want to, actually even enter Parliament. So how do we even start to change? What's the tipping point?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to write this book. I think that a few things need to change. One, we need to call it out. We need to shine a light on what women can expect to deal with in Parliament and how they might be able to best deal with that. But also we need to tell the other side of the story, that being a member of Parliament is a wonderful privilege. And as I say, I think it's the best job in the world. And I want women to know about the good parts as well. I think that we're at a crossroads. Women can choose, this is a disgusting culture and I don't want anything to do with it, and disengage. Or women can choose, right, well, we need to step up and get in and change this, because it's important, not just to the women that work in Parliament House, but to the men and women right across Australia. Our Parliament should be better. And I think it's time that we have the national conversation and we call for change. If the politicians aren't going to do it, then I think the community should. We should demand that our Parliament is better.
Absolutely. I think it's, hopefully, there's what happens in the highest office in the land, then, that sets the standard for the whole country. We hopefully will see changes in a whole bunch of different offices, or workplaces, households, even schools. I don't know, that would be my dream. Aside from obviously running for Parliament myself, I feel I may have left my tilt a little bit too late, Kate. But I found your book.
Happy to discuss that further if you want some tips. It's never too late.
Look, I'll come back to you on that one, but that was how I finished reading your book, feeling actually really inspired, which I think is what you want, right? You want to leave people with the message that this can be an incredibly rewarding and satisfying job, and it was totally worth it for you. And that's really powerful too. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to see this out in the wild.
Thank you.